Hey guys, Chris with Fort Park Property Management here. What I wanted to discuss with you today is a topic that comes up all the time. Now, we manage a lot of these types of properties here in the Lower Mainland, and they're very common. That's kind of what they're building right now. So they are section properties. And the most common one is you'll get on a main road, you'll have commercial in the bottom. So you might have, I don't know, say 4 or 5 commercial properties and then 30 residential up above. Now, the commercial is a separate section, the residential has its own section, and there is a common or joint section that manages the whole thing. So these are really tricky. Just some tips and tricks if you're buying into one of these, or if you're managing one of these, if you're on council, some things that can make them work a little bit easier. They do make sense, so I think we're going to see more and more of these being built. But like I said, you might get thrown into it and not really know what you're buying into. So invoice allocation is number one. So really important to make sure that the invoices you have for each one of these separate sections is allocated to the right section. If you don't, if you're paying them out of the wrong sections, which can happen very easily if it's not clear, it can be a real mess to untangle later. Ask me, I know from experience. The strata fees should be kept totally separate. So you might have a credit owing to owners in one and a large, maybe some makeup fees in another one. They don't offset. So it's really important that you make sure that everyone understands that they're totally separate things, that you're going to get 2 debits out of your account every month, one for the residential section and one for the joint section. They're not mixed together, commingled. You need to have separate bank accounts. So the residential section would have their operating account, their CRF. The commercial would have their operating account, their CRF. The common section would have their own operating account, CRF, special levies, and all that. It's an accounting nightmare. You can have, dozens of accounts for one building. Treat the sections like their own entities. So the less intermingled they are, the easier it's going to be for accounting in the long run. It's a lot more work to set it up this way, a lot more admin costs, but in the long run, you'll be very happy that you did that when and if conflict occurs, especially. Which leads us into our next one, plan for conflict and potential litigation. So there's going to be disputes. How you handle these disputes is going to make all the difference in the world. So come up with a mediation plan when there's disputes. Try and avoid CRT claims. Try and avoid spending a whole bunch of money on lawyers. It's very common that we see stratas spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year butting heads with each other when maybe it's just something you guys could work out. So plan for that and try and get ahead of it to mitigate any potential issues. Keep your bylaws very clear. So that's important. Who's responsible for what? Ambiguity causes chaos. So if the bylaws are really clear, it's the joint section is responsible for the windows, the residential is responsible for the patios, and commercial is responsible for, I don't know, the front walks or something like that. Whatever it is, just make sure it's very clear and people know. Another thing that can get a little messy is when you have different management companies managing each section. This can sometimes work out well in big buildings, but if they're smaller, it can be a bit of a mess. I've seen 3 section buildings with 3 different management companies. That doesn't work very well. Be very clear as to which section is in charge of reviewing and approving commercial build-outs and renovations. So the commercial section may think, well, it's our section, we get to manage that. But the bylaws may say something totally different. And very often it's the joint that gets to manage that. So just be clear. And then at the end of the day, if you want to try and manage this as effectively as you can, try and see the bigger picture. Think about what's best for the building, not just about what's best for each individual section. Sometimes I see these stratas get stuck on very, very small items. They can't get over them, and it costs them, nothing gets done. Lawyers are brought in. Just look at what's best for the building and what's going to be best for the owners in the long run. And if you guys need help managing your section property, please reach out to us. Even if you don't use us, we can point you in the right direction because we do have a lot of experience with this. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was a little bit beneficial.